So while all this is going on, what are the Democrats doing? Well, the Democrats are calling law-abiding Americans terrorists, crazies, and anarchists. The Democrat Party is favoring deficit spending when we're broke. The Democrat Party is defrauding Americans with Obamacare, no apologies. The Democrat Party favors the end of the doctor-patient relationship. The Democrat Party favors the IRS running health care. The Democrat Party favors running the private sector via regulations. There's no allegiance to the rule of law. The Constitution's viewed as a liability. And in all of this, the Republicans are the problem. The Republicans are holding the Democrats hostage. Where do the Democrats go from where they are? I mean, there's nowhere to go other than one-party rule by decree. What's to stop Obama from banning Congress somewhere down the road? Believe me, I mean, you think that sounds extreme. If he thought that he could do it and get away with it, he'd give it a shot. That's his modus operandi. Get rid of opposition. Get rid of debate. Get rid of disagreement. Just broom it. Ban the First Amendment. Nationalize the media. Get rid of the Second Amendment. You know what they want to do. We're getting dangerously close to nobody stopping them. And in the middle of all this, it's the Republicans who are holding people hostage. It's the Republicans. They're holding a gun to people's heads. It's the Republicans that are demanding ransom. That's all a crock. The really damaging, negative, harmful, mean things happening to people in this country are happening from the Democrat Party. I've always seen in these poll numbers on people opposing Obamacare, I've always seen an opportunity for the Republican Party, political party, to bond with the American people as the party of the individual, state sovereignty, liberty, balanced budgets, free markets, all that. It's just sitting there. It's just a pot of gold. It's just sitting there. It's just waiting. The Republicans, though, think that the whole country's gone over to the left side because they believe all these polls. Well, I've got some research data that shows vast majority of the American people think that one of the biggest problems of the country right now is the government. No, it's not in the mainstream media. It's a couple of think tank wonks who've gone out and done a scholarly study founded on Powerline. They're not the only ones. It's not the only place you can find this kind of evidence. The polling data on Obamacare, majorities have always opposed it. There's always been an opportunity. This is what those of us outside the Beltway don't get. And I guess it's just that what happens in the Beltway is the world. There is no world outside the Beltway for people who live and work there. When the Democrats right now, the Democrats in Congress are willing to hold this country hostage and risk default rather than give up their 70% Obamacare subsidy. Don't for a moment think that's not part of what this is about. Members of Congress and the Senate want their subsidy. They want 75% of their Obamacare expenses paid for. And they are willing to hold the country hostage and shut down the government and risk the credit rating, all that garbage for their own personal gain. Make no mistake, that is a factor here. Just to preserve the subsidy for their Obamacare premiums. It's been the case in the past. The Republicans they were once known as the party of the individual, of state sovereignty, liberty, balanced budgets, free markets, all that stuff. And I know some people may rush, those terms aren't going to persuade anybody. Free markets, who knows what the low information crowd. I'm not talking to them right now. I'm talking to you. The Republicans know what these terms mean. There's ever since Obama took office, I've seen this golden opportunity for the Republican Party to bond with a majority of the American people. And you see the 2010 midterm results. It was there. It's the same old saw, folks. The Republican leadership is not conservative. The Republican establishment is not conservative, so none of that interests them. Let's go to the Politico here. What Obama and Republicans get with a deal. And I'm only sharing this with you because this is the kind of crap that influences what happens with Republicans. And the Politico in this story, they're already crowing. They're already applauding. They're celebrating. They've got their victory. The Republicans are caving. That's the whole tone of this story. It's a tremendous Democrat victory. And really, from their standpoint, who can blame them? From their standpoint, this is a complete rout. The debt ceiling's been raised enough to last to the middle of January. This is what the Republicans have proposed. The Republicans have proposed the debt ceiling raised enough to go through the middle of January, and without the sequester cuts being locked in. Which means it looks like the sequester, contrary to what George Wilson, the sequester could go bye-bye by the end of the year. And the Democrats are still going to carve out, they're going to get a carve out for their union soldiers. That's a detail at the bottom of this Politico story. And never mind that will once again change Obamacare, which is the law of the land, and you can't touch it, right? We can't defund it, Rush, Mr. Limbaugh. We can't delay it. It's the law of the land. It hasn't been the law of the land since it first began implemented, when Obama decided to piecemeal it. Again, that's why we can't let Lincoln's quote apply here, because we're not going to be enforcing it strictly. Now we move over to Brit Hume. This is Real Clear Politics. And Brit Hume wants to know, what is the Tea Party really trying to get out of this shutdown? And Brit Hume, and I don't say this, by the way, with any antagonism. Don't misunderstand. Don't anybody write Brit Hume and say that Limbaugh was ripping him to shreds. It's not what I'm doing. I'm just giving you the perspective. Here's the Politico, approved media leader for the White House. Then we go over to Fox. Here's Brit Hume, and he says veteran political observers on both the left and the right are still trying to figure out just what the House Tea Party caucus and its Senate Pied Piper Ted Cruz were thinking when they insisted on using the threat of a government shutdown to fund or defund Obamacare. It was a hopeless strategy that has not only failed in its stated goal, but it's helped send the Republican Party to its lowest favorability ratings ever. In conventional terms, it seems inexplicable, but Senator Cruz and his adherents do not view things in conventional terms. They look back over the past 50 years, including the supposedly golden era of Reinaldus Magnus, and they see the uninterrupted forward march of the American left. Anyway, Mr. Hume goes on to basically say that people have no clue what they're doing. What do they expect to get out of this? This is a wasted 15 days, and they've taken the Republican Party to its lowest standing in a decade or longer. And that's only if you believe these polls that miraculously appear at just the right time to create this kind of commentary, which takes me to Pat Buchanan column, but I got to take a brief EIB obscene profit break right now. But sit tight, folks, because we're just warming up here. If you didn't know better, you'd think I was on steroids today. I assure you, I'm not.